Hi, I'm Evan. Welcome to my fish room. It's March 22nd and it is snowing where I live. So what better time to be down in the fish room with a nice hot cup of coffee, and I figured I'd do a quick video on quarantining fish as I picked up some new fish last week. Local fish store just opened. Really small white finned tetras. I almost forget the name. They'll have the body shape of like a serpent tetra or a black skirt tetra or a white skirt tetra. These ones just have the red and white on their fins. Actually, they aren't much to look like now because they're, I don't know how old they are, but they're very young. But once they grow up, if the pictures on the internet aren't lying to me, they will be quite stunning fish. So stick around till the end of this video. I'll show you my plop and drop method. They're actually destined for the 55 behind me, but before I add them in there, I'm gonna have to grow them out a bit and quarantine. Quarantine should be done whenever you bring any new fish to the fish room, regardless of where you get them from. Even if they're a well-known breeder or very trusted friend or whatever, it doesn't hurt to do a quick quarantine. Even if it's only 7 days, it's still better than not quarantine at all. These guys will probably be on their own for probably close to a month by the time I think they're big enough to go into the 55 with the bigger fish. But let's get into the what I do to quarantine. One of the things you're going to need is a heater. This is an Eheim heater. I like Eheims. They've always worked good for me. Unless it's like a goldfish or another fish that doesn't require a heater, or your room's not heated. My fish room's heated and I still had to put a heater just because it turned out where I put my quarantine tank happens to be a few degrees cooler than the rest of my tanks. Just the way the air's flowing in my fish room, I guess. But you gotta get the temperature correct, whether your room temperature is good enough or not. That's something you have to determine for your own fish. Tropical temperatures, goldfish, room temperature. Many danios and barbs can also do fine at room temperatures too. So it's just something you gotta research for your own individual fish. Another thing you need is a cycled filter. I like sponge filters for that. I really like these double barrel ones. Back before I had a fish room and I just had a couple tanks, because I could leave this running in my main tank and then I need a cycled sponge for my quarantine or hospital tank. I could pull one drum off, put it on my other filter, and then put a new foam on this one, and now I'm seeding and I still have filtration in this guy, and now I still have a cycled sponge over here in my quarantine system or hospital tank, or even just a new tank you want to set up. It doesn't matter. You can also take, if you have running a canister filter, you could take a chunk of foam out of that, or even a handful of the media, and just throw that in the bottom of the tank. It's still better than nothing if you're in a pinch. I just want to take a quick moment to thank you for watching, and if you're not already a subscriber, please hit that subscribe button. Means a lot to me. And if you are a subscriber, please hit that like button. Thank you. Now, if you have a hang-on back filter, a lot of people are probably using these cartridges. They're not the best. I mean, there's lots of videos out there from other YouTubers who tell you how to cut foam and modify your hang-on back filter. I recommend doing that. These are expensive. They're just not that good, really. Not to mention the fact that you have carbon in them, so if you're running a planted tank or any sort of medication, your carbon's working against you. So Sponge filters are awesome. They just take a little air pump to run, and I get it. People don't like the way they look. But anyway, so you need a cycle filter. The next thing you need is a container that holds water. It doesn't have to be an aquarium, although it is easiest if you have a 10-gallon tank. Most meds are usually based on 10 gallons for a dosing requirement, or at least in a multiple of 10, so you can so it's easier to figure out that way. Plus it's glass, you can check, it's easy to check on the fish's health. Make sure the fish can fit in the aquarium. Don't take your brand new 12-inch Oscar and stick in a 10-gallon aquarium for quarantine. That's probably not going to end well. But if you buy a 10-pack of Tetras or whatever at your local mom and pop or big box store, throw them in the 10-gallon, and at least you can keep an eye on their health easier through the glass. If you don't want the expense of having a glass container, like a 10-gallon around, a 5-gallon bucket would work in a pinch. A Rubbermaid tote would work. Really anything that holds water. Try and be a minimum of 5 gallons. You get over the 5-gallon or under the 5-gallon mark, and it just becomes difficult. Even at 5 gallons is somewhat difficult. For me, 10 gallons makes sense. A lot of people medicate right off the hop. Being in Canada, I don't really have that option. It's hard to get medicines up here. Like, we can't get any antibiotics, even like the really good like Paracleanse or Prazi Pro. Like, there's enough to do maybe one more treatment in a 10-gallon tank in here, and that's it. And it was $21. And I probably will not find a new bottle of this in Canada. I can try and get it on eBay, but there's a chance that it doesn't make it to me. It gets seized at the border. Our government outlawed all the good meds, so anything claiming to be a fish health product was on the chopping block, but they decided to allow the herbal remedies that don't actually do anything to still be sold. So we're stuck with Melafix, Primafix. Apparently the Super Tact or whatever that King of DUI goes on about works. I haven't had the chance to buy it yet. I haven't seen it in any of my local fish stores. I might pick up a bottle one day when I see it. Luckily, I still have some Icex kicking around. That's illegal here too. You can buy methylene blue. I haven't even tried that for fighting anything yet. What I do use is salt. If I see any outbreak, I use salt. I'll recommend Aquarium Co-op's directions for dosing salt. I'm not going to sit here and tell you how to do it. That's something you can research here on your own and work your way up to the dosage, because I don't want to be responsible. I don't want you to feel that I'm responsible for killing your fish. Another thing we can get in Canada is Ken's Premium, I'm going to pronounce this wrong, Metterterzonia and garlic flake. I'll just hold it up. We can use that for deworming, but I've never had a confirmed case of worms that would fight. The only worms I've ever had that I've known I've had for 100% sure has been calamitous worms. I wasn't able to get the medications for that, and I felt that putting down the tank was a safer method of control than trying to fight with no meds. I didn't want the risk in my fish room after. I tried Panicure C, a dog dewormer. That's something we can get in Canada too. But I didn't have flubendazole or I forget what the other effective medication is. But with the Panicure C, the active ingredient was fenbendazole, and it just wasn't working for me. At that time, I wasn't nearly as set up as I am now with the independent water systems in the room to have safe quarantine. So at that time, I felt the best solution to save the health of the rest of my fish was to put down the tank, which is too bad. I had really nice guppies in there and some super red bristlenose, which I think is what actually brought the worms into my guppy colony, was a super red bristlenose. And that's the day I learned my hardest lesson about quarantining ever. That's why I quarantine everything now. I mean, there's no point risking, no matter how trusted or how good a guy or how much you trust the individual, you can't trust them on this. You gotta quarantine. You gotta quarantine. I mean, one day it's gonna, maybe not tomorrow, maybe not a month from now, but one day you'll buy fish from someone you trust. It'll bite you in the ass, and it won't even be their fault. I mean, they could have had the fish for a month, and the calamanus worms were just going through their life cycle, and they decided to move the fish along, and you grab it, and you had it for a month, and you toss it in your tank. Next thing you know, you got red worms sticking out of the butt of your fish. A month and a bit later, you got red worms sticking out of the butts of all your fish, and they're all wasting away, or unexplained deaths. And it's just, don't skip quarantine. Another common argument is whether or not to put substrate in your quarantine tank. In my current quarantine tank, I do not have substrate. I have farm raised tetras that have never really lived a life in a regular aquarium, so they don't seem to be bothered by it. If you're using, like, say, if you're quarantining something wild caught who never lived its life with a mere floor, you might want to put in a handful of sand or gravel or something. It doesn't have to be the whole tank. It doesn't even have to be that much. Just a little bit, so that the fish has a nice safe spot where it can go and feel like there's a floor underneath them. I also threw in a handful of plants. As I said, I'm not currently treating with meds or anything. I'm strictly observing. Let's take a quick look. So here's my quarantine tank. Like I said, I got no substrate in it. I got the tetras in there. I got my heater. The air is turned off for the filming of this video. And that ticking sound you hear is my mechanical light timer. I'll have to one day move that someplace less annoying. But yeah, that's what it looks like. There's no meds in the water. I got a little Indian onion leaf in there. I got a little guppy grass. Just observation is all is all there really is to do. I mean, they aren't flashing. They eat well. I did have one that was swimming funny from the day I got it. It passed. Bought 10, I'm down to 9. I don't think that's really the fish store's fault. I think it was just I asked for 10, they scooped me out 10 out of the thing, and I was like, I didn't specify any, I didn't pick them out, I just said, give me 10. Had I done this again, I'd say, give me 10 of the bigger ones. Those are still quite small, but they're doing good. And they'll probably stay in this tank for a little while longer. Probably, let's see, I've had them a week. Not sure what's happening with my work schedule. I might be going out of town in the near future. Actually just waiting on a phone call as I'm recording this. So we'll see what happens there. If I'm going out of town, they're probably gonna They'll stay in this tank for one turnaround, and then when I get back, if everything's still good, I'll put them into the divided 100s to grow out till they're big enough to go into the 55. The old plop and drop. Got one bag leaking and the other one's double bagged. Oh boy. Stragglers. Look at that. Always done. Just the old pour them in a net, put the fish in the tank. It's always worked for me. I've never had an issue. I've never drip acclimated. Even like cherry shrimp, I've never drip acclimated. I have the same water source as the majority of the places I buy it from though, so I'm not dealing with imports, so I'm dealing with locally bought fish, usually hopefully raised. And if they were imported, the fish store had already dealt with that. So, but I'm sure they plop and drop too. Most people do. Well, thank you for watching my quarantine video. I know it's not the greatest in-depth quarantine video in the world, but if you follow a few of the things I say in here, it'll get you, it'll stop a massive outbreak of something in your main aquarium. Or, you know, at least mitigate that. I wish I could tell you what meds to use and what dosages to use, but there's just, it's too varied from country to country, and in my country we just don't have access to anything good. But yeah, thank you very much for subscribing, liking the videos, and even just watching. Your time is the most valuable thing that you have, and you're spending some of it with me, watching me ramble on about various topics in the aquarium hobby, and I can't thank you all enough for that. Thank you, and see you next week.